What's up, family? Welcome to another episode of the Chip Off the Old Block podcast. I am your host, CJ Matthews, here with the notorious Dr. CJ Matthews, aka the Chip.
You know who really likes that? Your mama. She's excited that I'm the old block.
Hey, so I hope I get to make it to old block status one day.
Yeah, that's what these elderly gentlemen I used to work with back in the day, and I still remember them all so well because, I used to sit around and pick on those old guys all day, calling them old man, yeah, just all kind of stuff. They were kind to me, they were mentor type men, and I laugh now because I said, wow, the one thing they would always tell me, that's all right, boy, just keep on living. You're gonna get there one day. And really, I'm so grateful that I did because, it's real easy in this country as an African American male not to be doing anything wrong, not to catch any diseases, not to be sick and wind up dead. So I like being the old block. I'm gonna dye my hair though. Maybe I'll dye my mustache. Oh, I ain't got no hair. Okay, whatever.
Speaking of hair,
I beat you.
uh,
I beat you.
the
And I was messed up because I'm like, don't get it cut. Just keep looking like a wildebeest or whatever you look like. And then I'm like, but what about all these people out here in the podcast who don't know you, don't know you crazy, don't know you none of this crazy stuff. And I'm like, you need to be neat and presentable. Then when I got in the chair and I was talking to my barber, I told him, I said, nah, I don't cut it off.
no, you look good, but you jump ship. I'm still scoring my Corona cut.
Yeah, I know. That's the other thing I thought about. I said, wow, we're going to be doing the podcast, and CJ, he didn't get his cut yet.
No, it's it's funny because last time we was here, I was like, oh no, I'm just not ever getting the cut. Like I'm just gonna ride out. But now I'm like, shoot, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. But I don't know if I'm gonna actually go back to the shop. I'm working with I'm working with my guy, and we gonna see. I already got I got a chair in my office, so we gonna see. But you know, it is kind of good to see that these people get to resume business because that's a huge economy. That's a huge, you know what I'm saying? And it's just, I on one from one point of view, it's really, I was really happy to see that a lot of these people in that industry, which is one of the largest growing industries, you know, in the world, get to resume business and get to resume to making money.
I wish, and I know that's why I'm the old block, because I believe in black economics. Um, and people ask me all the time, well, why do you believe this about black and that about black? Because nobody has to argue for white economics.
Right.
Nobody has to. That argument doesn't have to be made. And so, what we could find a way, since that is such a powerful industry in our community, to recapture the entire industry, not just the service side, but the product side.
And,
Um,
and a lot of people
the,
are actually doing that.
the distribution of the products, because if I know of an African American company that's producing products, that's the place where I'm going to get my products. I may have to retrain because I've been using the same stuff for years. But right now, the economic reset we could participate in is major because everybody's fragile now, not just black business or Hispanic business or Korean or the other minority businesses in our community. But everybody's fragile.
Right.
So now would be a time to create the kind of robust networking that everybody could benefit from, because even coming back, the PPE equipment, the supplies they need that are not necessarily a priority of their business, though. I've never been to a barbershop where they weren't sanitizing.
Right.
And I'm 66 years old, and I've been going to barber for years, where they weren't cleaning their stuff. Maybe just I had always had good barbers, but and I know some of the people that my mom went to, my wife went to, as far as salons, and now the new sensitivities are necessary, but if they've already been struggling during this lapse of time to earn money, where's this stuff going to come from? I know I've been advocating with some of our governmental sources to, look at some of these resources you guys are providing, and these businesses that can't connect in that normal way, and see how you can serve them if you're going to put these demands on them. Because that's one of the ways they've been able to hurt smaller business historically, is just change the regs, add more regs, reg us out of the business. And before you know it, somebody else is serving us in our community. And again, well, like it or don't like it, take it however you want to take it. Those people should not be mining the gold in our community.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
There is wealth in the Black community, but we befriend everybody. We're benevolent people. We befriend everybody. And when people talk like me, then I'm considered radical or something bad. And again, no other community has to. There are certain communities I couldn't go in and survive and set up shop. And I know that's an old argument, but it's the truth.
It's a fact. And I think to your initial point about, the product and that sort of thing, I think it's going to take a level of participation, a level of cooperation amongst people in order to achieve that sort of things, where it can't always be about just me. But if we can come together and we can, together, we can accomplish much more.
Well, I know some young barbers who really have it together, and they're smart. Their businesses ran accordingly. They provide very, very efficient services. Their shops are quality, and so some of the ideas and imagery of certain industries in our community get treated unfairly.
Always.
The images that's given, like I said, I know several, and so. But again, it is good that they're able to open back up. It's good the economy is being able to open back up to some degree, but unfortunately, outside of my barber, ain't nobody getting none of my money because I ain't going nowhere. I'd like to support everybody, but no, because I'm not going nowhere. I'm not going to the gym. I'm not going to the movie. I'm not going nowhere but to the grocery store, to the church, to the place where we do our podcast, and what else is it? Grocery store. And really don't have to go to the bank that much, but maybe the bank.
Right. Yeah, so, actually they just released a new list here in Ohio about things that's going to be opening back up. And the main thing from that list, which we can get to some of those things, the main thing or the main takeaway from this reopening, at least here in Ohio, and he has been adamant about saying and demonstrating that he wants to be a model for the rest of the country, is daycares. And I think that's huge. And one of the reasons why I think that's huge is because I was wondering, I'm like, okay, as you're starting to reopen business, as you're starting to send these people back to work, schools have already been closed for the rest of the year. What do you do with these kids? And it's kind of like it's a catch-22 in a sense, because I just felt there was going to be a new generation of kids, not latchkey kids, but corona kids who were basically in a position where they had to fend for themselves. And I wonder what type of future that looks like. But it seems as if, obviously they have brains, so you can't open a business without offering some sort of solution to childcare.
I don't trust them. That the reality is that if it's not safe for a child to go to school, it's not safe for a child to go to daycare. That's the reality. I understand the connection, but thank God y'all all grown, because I would not be sending my kid nowhere.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. And let me not be so arrogant, because I did have the benefit some of my marriage when you guys were younger, where your mom worked a lot of the time, and there was some time when she didn't have to work. but our children, all you guys were in daycare or some form of care. Because I could hear Dee Dee saying, "Now I wasn't in no daycare," because we had grandmother not Ruby, but and so I understand that. And so I think that what we have to do is assessments. People have to work, and especially people who are either underpaid or not paid at all, or working in industries where it's just it's not a living wage, according to this country. And so we have to be sensitive to those facts. But how do we create something that's just, and I know some daycare folk, and they are great. We had a daycare of our own, but it's still a gathering place for kids, and we still don't know enough about this thing for children. So I think that's a hard one right there for me, because I was already prepared to fight against any kids coming back in the school buildings, because our kids don't have access to digital um, capabilities and technology. They were talking about in the fall phasing in, some kids having to come back to buildings. I'm like, going to send kids who are already the most vulnerable back in these buildings, while other kids don't have to worry about that, and families don't have to worry about that. So I've been struggling with that. That's a challenge for me, and how I'm going to approach it, and how I'm going to advocate for it, and really trying to balance it between the need of the parent, the need of the child, and ultimately the need of employment for all of us. Because I have to be employed right now. I don't have an option.
Right. Yeah, it's tricky. So, in addition to daycares, gyms is opening back up.
Nope. Nope, 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 nope.
Right. Yeah.
Your mom and I, we're gym people. 5 days a week, we're in the gym. And matter of fact, I was on a pretty good roll before this thing hit. I had made 5 weeks in a row, 5 days, started out the year. This is going to be my year to get back in shape so I can hit that golf ball.
That's the one that I've been wondering about. Golf courses, although I feel as though they've been open, they have declared to open back up soon too. And I'm like, man, is there no golf this year? I don't know. Like, I don't know how to feel.
I've been talking about it's just in the last 2 days. I actually talked to a couple of our golf buddies, and they've been playing, but it's very different right now because you can only go one person in the cart, so things are backed up more, and at least the one course we play has been backed up quite a bit, unless you go on one of our members went out on a inclement day, and so he.
Hold on, more backed up? It would seem like it'd be less backed up. You get to your ball quicker, and it'd be less players because everybody got to get their own cart.
It's more backed up, and you know why it's more backed up? Because I got to ride to my ball by myself. I got to look at my shot by myself, and then I got to measure my shot by myself, and then I got to make my shot. You know how people are. Me, I go up there and whack it and look for it and whack it again.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I haven't. It's been almost a year since I played, and I'm kind of thirsty. So I don't know. I think that's one that's really not. You're not really pushing the limits of
As
safety.
much as I like to play golf, as much as I like to go to the gym, nope, don't trust them. Nope.
Gym or golf.
Nope. Not right now. I gotta see something. I try to pay attention. Try to be discerning. Certainly want to be open to the move of the Holy Spirit. I haven't heard not one medical person say, "Hey, y'all, let's go to these places." No, not one medical person. Now, I see the medical people trying to help facilitate a healthy return. So they're going against their first voice to protect the community, which that's admirable. They're not giving in, I'm not saying that. But they are saying, okay, if you're going to do this, here's the better ways to do it. So they're adding their voice to the health of the fact that this thing is beyond their control now. But I've heard only caution. I've heard only safety and protection from medical people.
Yeah. Well, so like I was saying, I was hearing all of this stuff because I was watching our governor Mike DeWine's weekly or bi-weekly or however weekly message, and he said something really interesting to sort of switch gears. As he was talking about reopening, specifically like daycares and those sort of things, he said that basically we haven't had to do this before, and he used the key phrase. He said there's really no playbook, and I think it's really interesting based on something that I've thought about, something that I think we probably talked about before. Because when I think about a life in ministry, I always go back because the majority of my life has been dedicated to one thing: sports. I played football for most of my life, and that has consumed most of my life, and it's become most of my life, my thought, my everything. And, there's it's a certain regiment, a certain routine, or a certain playbook that you have to follow. You know what I'm saying? I know that I got to do this, and this, and it'll yield this, and this. And as I think about it, and as I continue in ministry, sometimes I feel as though as a pastor or in ministry, there's not exactly a playbook.
Yeah, and I know the immediate Christian answer. Hey, y'all Christians, it's the Bible, the Bible. Well, yes, it's the place of our faith.
I didn't think of that.
It's what we believe in. But when it comes to ministry, not in proportion to the pandemic, though some days it may feel like not a pandemic, but very challenging. I think that there are playbooks, but they're made up of a variety of things. But every person has to come to that place where they've developed their own.
Right.
Certainly it flows from the scriptures. It flows from men and women of God in your life around you who have gone through some things and done some things. You want to be able to talk and glean from those who have been successful, but you want people to be transparent enough to hopefully share some of their failures and some of their challenges. In your case, you don't have to worry about that. I'm both your dad and your pastor, and I've stood on both the pinnacle of ministry, and then I've had a significant challenge. When you go to jail and you're a pastor or a preacher, that's and in our case, because of the size of our ministry, that was front page news. So when you look at a playbook, and I could understand Governor DeWine said there is no playbook. I wish there was, and I wish I had seen it for myself, because some of the things I've been hearing as far as we have people in this country who study these types of responses, and that's their job, and that's what they do. And they have a preparedness manual or playbook for pandemics. Now, I've never seen it, so I can't say how real it is, but they discuss these things. The problem right now is that our leadership has chosen to allow 50 people to discuss these things, versus sitting down as a nation and understanding that we are not in competition with ourselves. And in this case, we're not even in competition with other countries. We're literally in a place where humanity is at risk, and leadership should rise above any personal agendas to say, how do we as a world conquer this? Is there a forum? How do we as a nation conquer this? Is there a forum? Is the Governors Association together with the President and the Congress and Senate, or, is there a forum? But yet, no, we have chosen to keep our gloves on and fight. And so I think that the deaths will be curtailed significantly if we were developing this playbook. My prayer is that Governor DeWine is a forerunner, that he does develop something that the rest of the nation can look at. And I say that very selfishly, because I live in Ohio. And I've got family all over the country. And we've got membership all over the country because of our connected platform. So I'm equally as concerned. We've got folk who live in other countries, both in our family and from our church, other countries, from our church. So anyone with any level of God in them would not want China or North Korea or any other nation to succumb because of this virus. So that's why the church is so important. That's why the prophetic voice is so important, because sometimes the moral compass of our nation will not point in a healthy direction as long as the prophets are quiet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that was the operative word was leadership. And a lot of times, it seems or it feels as if there's a lack of leadership when it comes to these certain things. But to kind of get back to this whole playbook and ministry kind of thing, because even it's like, okay, if I go play around the golf, right? If I shoot even par, I know I shot even par. If I shoot over par, I shoot over par. If I'm playing a football game, I have 7 catches for X amount of yards, this many touchdowns. It's like I can see the result. But sometimes when you're in this, when you are a pastor, there are times when you can see the outcome. There are times there are things that you could easily point to, like, okay, things like oh, if membership is growing, oh, if there's certain things that are visible, but sometimes it's like you're following God's voice. You're doing the things that He says, and you may or may not be able to see the impact of what it is that you're doing. And sometimes, and maybe that is the flesh, maybe that is vanity, maybe that is vain, but sometimes you want to know that what you're doing is working.
Right. Affirmation and encouragement is a vital part of the human psyche. Given too much, and we'll see people who are vain and very selfish. Giving too little, we'll see people who are insecure and feel rejected. But given a healthy balance and appropriate times and places, you see the potential for a mature, secure human being. In the kingdom, God gives us glimpses, all right? And when you appropriate those glimpses, whether it's a person's life who is transformed, or if it is growth in your ministry, or health in your ministry, or depth in your ministry, because growth, health, and depth are different.
Right.
If it's, I've never run from the word success. Okay, I know a lot of Christians do, a lot of church people, believers, whatever you want to call yourselves, but I don't run from the word success.
Right.
I've been extremely successful all of my ministry because God gave me something that was so powerful that I would dare not be successful. Okay, when I went to jail, I did so much ministry in jail, it was unbelievable. I was having so much fun, it was unbelievable. Okay, and as a matter of fact, we were having so much fun. It's the Bible study, exercise, and doing things we were doing, chats just like this with groups of guys. One guy came up to us one day and cussed us out. Basically said, when did so many happy so people come to jail? We weren't happy because we were in jail, but the joy of the Lord gave us a place of peace in spite of the situation we were in. But the greatest work that God is going to do, you're not going to see it.
Right.
Because the greatest work He's going to do is going to be in you. So others will see it.
Yeah, but even that, it's like, because I was contemplating this on the other day. So I've been in ministry for several years now, and it's like, yeah, I know, right? It's like, man, but it's been several years, and it's just like, how do you see that growth? You know what I'm saying? It's like you would like to progress, you would like to grow in certain things. Like that's just the natural. Or maybe not for all people. That's a natural inclination of my own. I'm speaking personally now. And it's like sometimes though, it's like, oh, okay. Or maybe am I too close to the elephant to see it? Like as you kind of say, because it's like, I don't know, maybe you can't exactly see, you can't always see yourself.
Right. Well, I mean, you came in, Bishop Tudor Bismarck, great man of God. And we were in a conference together, and he was telling us a story. And he gave us a principle that I embrace it. You hear a lot of stuff people say, but I embrace that principle is that, your ministry is based on where you come in at.
What you mean?
Okay, yeah. So his family was poor.
Right.
Okay, all right. And when he was the kid, and then they discovered jewels diamonds or something on their property. So they became wealthy. So the younger kids came up in wealth, and he didn't come up. They weren't really poor, but he didn't come up in this kind of wealth. And so the principle basically was you come in at a place. So depending upon where you come in at, determines your platform and what you get to do and where you get to go. So I came into success. All right. My pastor was totally successful. Our ministry was successful. So I came in. So I've never known anything but success. I've never known anything but growth and affirmation. Even as we went through the challenges we went through and lost all the stuff we lost, I never saw it as defeat. I saw it as some errant judgment, some forces just coming against the ministry because of its potential, which still exists, which may be manifesting you in the next generation and not me, because it's there and it's there. God gave it. It has nothing to do with us. I mean, the folly of pastoring and ministering is if you think for a second that you had something to do with the success.
Right.
The moment you think you had something to do with it, God may still use you. See, that's a myth. God doesn't stop using people because whatever. We have all these different radars we put on. God gives a person an assignment, and he knew before they took it what was going to happen.
Right.
Okay, that doesn't make us live irresponsibly. I mean, Dietrich Bonhoeffer in his book, The Cost of Discipleship, talks about cheap grace. No, we never want to live in that. But at the end of the day, this thing is about God. He gives some people assignments, and some people, through choices, things manifest. Some people, because they're able to multiply gifts and talents so fast and so quickly, or learn quick, or perceive quickly, or move, just think, okay? If something happens today and you're prepared, you get to take advantage of it today. While the person who has to get prepared doesn't get to take advantage of it until they get prepared. And that opportunity might not even be there in the same way when they do get prepared. Right. So the variables are so vast and diverse. It's amazing, But like I said, I've lived at every pinnacle you can live at, from the highest, and to the lowest. And so, but God is still God. His grace is still powerful. And I don't have to kowtow. Well, I mean, you can't be afraid of success. You can't be afraid of failure.
Yeah.
Both of those things happen. But affirmation and encouragement, those things are good, necessary. You may get them sometimes you're not. It's the healthy manner in which you need them that makes the biggest determinant. I determined in my spirit years ago that I would learn how to encourage myself.
Right.
I would learn how to, at least in my family, and that would be through your mom, your siblings, and now your nieces and nephews, and soon to be son, that through my family is where I would get my biggest encouragement.
Right.
And then God sent many, many people into my life who are encouragers. And then we have an encouraging congregation. Even when I went down to friendship, it was just as if that was family also.
Right.
Even for the small time we were out at the bowling alley, that became family also. I think a lot of that comes from just who you are. I've never been a part of any crazy church foolishness. It's not who I am.
Yeah, and it's not even just, affirmation, because like all that stuff is good, but I kind of can't even, I can't even get into that, because you go up there and you preach and then everybody say, oh man, that was a good word. I can't even I don't take, but it's just like this, like, okay, if I run a 40, right, and if I run a 4.45, it's like, okay, I run a 4.45. I know if I come back and I run a 4.3, that was a 4.3. It's not so, you know what I'm saying? It's not exactly the same.
I laugh because you said your whole life was about football. And then I was like, I remember when my whole life was about football. Then I was like, man, that's 50 years ago. You ain't had no whole life about football. My whole life has been about ministry, because I've been in ministry 40 years now.
Now it's like, every
I
year that passed.
I was just laughing, thinking in my spirit, but my whole life was about football and how fast it left.
Yeah, it left
how
quite
fleeting,
rapidly.
how fleeting it was. And again, life is challenging. We have to make adjustments. And for an African American male in this country, he better have a playbook.
He better have a
He
playbook.
better have a playbook because at any moment that book can be closed, no fault of his own.
Absolutely. Which is obviously, um, as we think about one of the, the more I don't want to use the wrong word. Uh, what's getting the most? Uh, I don't want to say the wrong word.
Attention.
Yeah. Uh, One of the most recent cases that's getting the most attention. Ahmaud Arbery, a young man, and a video had come out, and basically, you know, he was running, and he was gunned down by, you it's just another example. And I typically don't watch the videos, but for that reason I did watch the video, and it's heartbreaking, you know, because a lot of people can do a lot of talking, but they don't know how it feels to wake up with this as their reality. To have to deal, it's like I don't know. It's almost like survive. They had the thing driving while black, and they had the list jogging while black. All these other things while black become an issue, but it's like just surviving while black is basically become a thing. And as I was thinking about it, it's like sometimes, and I've grown up in very diverse situations, so I've been fortunate in that manner. But it's just like there will be times when I don't think about certain stuff as far as race. Where it's like I'm not, if I go into a store or if I go anywhere, that I'm not thinking about, well, what is this person thinking about me? But then something may happen and it's reinforced in me, and I'm like, wow, if I go here, it's like to be a young black man, you know, it's it's kind of tricky to maneuver and to navigate. Never would I live in fear, but there's really no place where I don't have to be on guard. It's like this, you don't have the luxury of relaxing, so to speak. Because anywhere I go, I gotta be wondering about, well, what is this person on? Oh, if I'm driving, what is the police on? What it's like everybody is potentially a threat, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I shared with a Caucasian friend of mine one time. I said, when your children go out, what's your biggest fear? He said, oh, I don't know. Um, I don't know. They're pretty good drivers. They don't do drugs. I don't know. So my biggest fear is that when my children go out, they'll be confronted by a police officer and killed. He was like, he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe I would say that, number one. I said, that's a reality that my father had, my grandfather had, and I have. I pray every day for my sons. Pray for all my children, but pray every day for my sons as black men in this country, because it has been proven historically that black lives don't matter, especially black men. And it's reinforced. This case here is a precedent-setting case, because stand your ground, um, um, citizens arrest, all of these things are now being used for people who hate to get their hate off on people. All right? The homeowner would have never shot that kid if he was breaking in, according to the homeowner. Okay? Been all kind of little mischief things done. There was no big thing to the homeowner. These two guys determined in their mind that they were going to rid their community of this person. They did not go out to stop him from hurting that house. They went out to kill him maliciously. It was premeditated murder. It was the highest form of murder that exists in our country. But we will now begin to vilify the young man, demonize him, Because once we make him less than human in this country, we've proven that once we make you less than human, we can lock children in cages. We can deport parents while children stay at the border in cages. We can hang African American men till the neck they're dead. We can rape and pillage their women. In this country, once you're demonized, then we can build laws so that Native Americans can become second-class, third-class citizens in their own country. And I know there are a lot of people who won't like me for saying these things, but until we can begin to have this discussion, we will never have change, because it's real easy for good Christian white people to stay silent.
It's it's just crazy. Even that good Christian white people. It's like, this whole, pro-life conversation. Um, we've spoken about it a bunch of times, but it's just like, people are protesting and doing all these things and holding all these rallies and all these different things talking about being pro-life, but whenever but life never seems to be valued after that point.
Right. Right. See, Dr. Carolyn Leaf in her work, who switched my brain on, gives us some very powerful insights into Romans 12, and that is how our brains work. When you literally created brain constructs so that your passions for life are solely tied to life in the womb, and I know many of my friends, Caucasian, African American, Hispanic, who are pro-life people, and their passion for that is so great, it literally will bring you to tears with them. And though I'm pro-life also, I'm pro whatever I am, I've never been able to abandon humanity, to abandon people. I would fight for law enforcement people every day to go home safely. All right. And for people who are committing heinous criminal acts, who put themselves in harm's way, and that law enforcement person has to protect themselves or the community in which they're in, unfortunately, that's their lot. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about innocent people, unarmed children, unarmed or armed civilians who are now acting in the place of law enforcement.
I think this idea of unarmed, like, I get the point of it, but it's almost like, because I literally it's something floating around on social media. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it's literally a dude in Subway with a rocket launcher. Like, and I can only imagine what other armory. And yet he's literally walking around with a rocket launcher, and we getting killed.
Right. Oh yeah. No, I mean, the confrontations that occur within culture are significantly different because of perception, one, fear, two, and or three. If you demonize, if you dehumanize, if you literally don't think that person has value, then you can do things to them that are very different than somebody you think who has value. You know, I try to treat everyone as if they're my brother or my sister, which is why I've worked over the years with law enforcement. We created Fugitive Safe Surrender, one of the biggest reentry programs in the country still to this day, because I'm never going to be isolated. We were preparing to do a civilian academy here when the pandemic hit. It was supposed to be in March. I believe in building bridges, but I'm never going to be quiet toward the criticism that sometimes we shoot too fast. All right, there's no such thing as a good shoot or a bad shoot. I think we put that issue in the wrong system. All right, arbitrators are worth 2 cents. Why? Because they're always brought back and they always get paid. So that system is flawed. It's failed. It's not working. There has to be a system created in this country where we can look at officers who shoot people maliciously differently and have a set of charges that relates to that. I don't think it can be the normal murder charges and things like that. And I'm not a lawyer, never studied law, don't intend to. But I just have been around long enough to say the arguments are all wrong and there has been no justice. Now, in this case, we're not talking about law enforcement.
Right.
So these boys should fry. Okay? They should get the death penalty. It should be deemed a hate crime, and it should be done at the highest level, and they should face both federal and state charges. Okay? Because it's a totally different situation than most of the shootings we're talking about. These guys went out and murdered this young man. I wouldn't care if he was in that house taking, I don't know what was in there, whatever was in there. Okay? They went out and murdered him. Okay? They murdered him. And that's the only thing they did. And so anyone who can look at this and not see murder, again, doesn't value that young man's life.
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
You know, I don't ever want to act like a lawyer. I don't have to follow law. I follow morality. Morally, what they did was heinous and wrong. And if what I'm hearing about the law is right, they ought to fry. And I don't believe in the death penalty, so I would have to argue that they don't fry.
I don't know. I don't know if I believe in death penalty.
Another conversation. It's time to go. The old block is tired or something.